Hi everyone from YouTube. This is Jane from Simply Stitches and Curiosities. I thought I would do a little bit of an introductory post. Is that what you call YouTube things? And tell you a little bit about myself and the shop and how it started and where it's going. Sorry, I have a list because if you know me, you know I can babble. So I didn't want to make this 3 hours long talking about myself. So anyway, this is probably going to start off as a very basic thing. I have nothing fancy. I have an old phone. I really need a new phone. And so far, this is where I'm making my videos from. So I hope to get outside my comfort zone and figure out how to make my YouTube channel as cool as the other ones that are out there. So I was born in Ontario. My family moved to Alberta in the mid-70s. And so, I call Alberta home. And yeah, we lived in northern Alberta. My dad was a beekeeper. And so was his dad. But his dad was a beekeeper on Ontario. We lived in northern Alberta. And yeah, grew up there. It was a great small town to grow up in where we were at. And we basically raised our kids there as well. When I married my high school sweetheart, we'll be married 37 years next month. You can hear my dog. We have 4 kids and 7 grandbabies. And thankfully, they all live in the province of Alberta. They're spread out, but we're in one province, so that's kind of nice. We moved from northern Alberta to High River 10 months before the flood. We dealt with that, lived there for a while, and then moved north of Sundre, west of Bowden, and we're there for another almost 5 years, and then moved down here to Nanton. And we're just small town people. I don't think you'll get us out of a small town. We live here with our 4 little dogs and 2 cats. I do have grand dogs and grand cats. I'd have to count them. 1, 2, 3, 4 dogs and 1, 2, 3 cats, I think. I opened the shop in May of 2022. We moved here to Nanton in the fall of 2021. And so it was still COVID-y. And my husband, who's an electrician, wasn't working very much, but would watch the news. And that's all I would hear is COVID stuff. And so for my sanity, I had to do something. So I had the opportunity to open a little, just under 400 square foot shop in kind of a collective. It was one building and we built our own little shops in it. And I was trying to think of a name. So I was a quilter for 20 plus years, but I was leaning and doing more and more and more handwork. And there's beautiful quilt shops everywhere, and there were in this area. They're dwindling down a little bit, but I didn't want to be a quilt shop because my current love is anything done by hand. So I focused on that, and I think I was pretty unique in that kind of niche. And so I opened in 2022 in this little just under 400 square foot space. That's in May. September, I moved into almost 500 square foot space. And then April 2023, I moved into an almost 800 square foot space. And business was fine. Business was good. Everyone thinks I closed my brick and mortar because business wasn't good, but that's not true. I think a lot of people just assume that when they hear of a small business closing. truth was my lease was coming up for renewal. My landlord, I couldn't stand him anymore. And I knew he was going to up my rent. He was also probably going to pressure me into signing into longer than a year at a time. And with the economy the way it was, I've said this to many people, you feed your children and pay your power bill, or you buy my stuff. And, sensible people would feed their children and pay their bills. And a lot of people said to me, but it's mental health. It's so good for your mental health. And I absolutely 100% agree. I'll touch on that in a little bit later. But I was also burnt out. I was a one-woman show, chief cook and bottle washer. And everyone's like, why don't you hire somebody? Well, there's a lot of reasons why I didn't feel like I could. When you have this specialized niche, you need people working for you who know about the industry. If I was a giftware shop, easy. I could hire a student to come in after school, and weekends. Not as big of a deal. I also wanted to be the face of my business. I didn't want you coming in thinking, wow, geez, I've seen Jane on the lives and all this stuff. You can come into the store and be like, who are you? Not that I wouldn't hire wonderful people. And that's the other thing. There's not a lot of people out there who would want just a little part-time job and be able to commit to it, because, a lot of people our age, you don't want that restriction in your life. You don't want to be committed to anything, especially when you're not going to make like a ton of money. So anyway, I would have also needed Wi-Fi. There's a whole long story there. That's another expense. And I was just, like I said, I was just tired. So I decided to close. I made a few mistakes. I should have had my website up and running, probably at the beginning of my business. Instead, I waited several months after I closed. People may have forgot about me. I don't know. But it's up and running now, www.simplystitches.ca. It's nothing fancy. I hope it's easy enough to maneuver. I have a lot of tweaking to do, and I keep putting that off and putting that off. But when I opened the store, you might wonder where the name Simply Stitches and Curiosities came from. I would have people come in and say, I'm looking for the curiosities, usually men. And my dad has a ton of antiques. And so this was my way of helping him not even scratch the surface. But he had a huge selection of vintage toy sewing machines, and I thought it was a good fit. So we added a few other things, and that's where the curiosities came. So really, I'm just Simply Stitches right now because it's all about the handwork. I have no antiques here to sell or online. Maybe one day. We'll see. So I decided to do this YouTube thing because I've been following a lady who's had her YouTube channel for probably almost 8 years now. Think doing the math, she's about 7 years older than me, and she's in the UK. Did I say that already? And her name is Kate, and she has the Homely Little House. The Homely Little House. And she, when I found her because she did a lot of English paper piecing, which I'd like to do more of. And so I went back to her at the beginning of her YouTube channel where she propped up her iPad. She might be outside. The first one, I think she was spinning wool on a spinning wheel. I thought, that's so cool. And she was just chatting, and I like to talk. And I thought, I could do this. And then I watched more and more, and the woman can do everything. She went to pottery, did pottery class. Like, she went to pottery every week, I think. She carded her wool, spun wool, knitted, English paper piecing, quilting, a lot of hand stitching. She cooks, she preserves. She had, at the time, some chickens. She doesn't anymore. She has a goose, cats. And I just loved her life. I just loved just jumping into her world. And I think it's very cool. And she started off with just a few followers, and she's up to over 200,000. She has a Patreon account. She has Instagram. I think her Facebook is run more by people, like her followers and stuff. It's moderated, I think. But Pinterest, they have a Pinterest page. She's got, and now she can hire family. She's got a couple of daughter-in-laws, and her daughter, her sons are all involved, and it's just so wonderful. Will mine get that way? Who knows? I'm not talented. I don't have, and I've said this from day one. Every time I've taught a class, it's like, I am not an expert. When I do my how-tos, you're just going to learn how I've done things. I have never been to a class where I've learned things from a professional. I can't think of anything. Quilting. I started a quilt class. I'd gone to a quilt show, and of course my hometown, and the two ladies who ran it, one used to be my home ec teacher in high school, and the other one was my typing teacher. We did typing in high school. And it was funny because I said to her, I said, oh, Sharon, I have a hard time calling them by their first names, but I'm over that now. I said, I could never do this. I love these quilts. She goes, can you sew a straight line? I said, I have no idea. I had just got a sewing machine for Christmas. And so I signed up for Pioneer Sampler by Eleanor Burns that Sharon was teaching. I go to the class. I have my manual out so I know how to thread my sewing machine. I'm sewing away, snap. My needle breaks. I had threaded it wrong. So that was my first quilt class and my first UFO. I should have continued, but after I'd put it away for a while, my kids were all little, and I was just busy. And then dug it out. The fabric was like gross. Can you hear the dogs barking? I'm sorry. This is my life. So that's how I started quilting. And really, when you're a quilter, you're a quilter. I mean, that you can venture off into other things. And then when we lived Sundre, Dee from Out of Hand in Calgary was doing a block of the month, and it was the Santa, the Tree, the Turkey, and me. And so I started. I'd never done wool applique before, and it combined wool applique and embroidery, and I fell in love and was hooked. I loved it. I started to do a lot more wool applique and embroidery combined projects, or just embroidery. I loved how portable the handwork was. I wish I, had done it more when my kids were little and I was sitting in an arena for hours. But yeah, I really, really, really liked it. I've always done crafts, whatever was, gosh, my mom and I did mop dolls. I'm really dating myself, not just my gray hair. I did a little crocheting, I did cross stitch, and nothing I ever did got to like an expert level. I just loved the process. And even with quilting, I didn't do anything too terribly hard, difficult. I never went out of my comfort zone and really learned a different technique that, really? I just love the colors, and I was a kit person. I like to go into a shop, and if they had a sample up and they had a kit and I loved the sample, I would buy the kit. Friends of mine and I would go down into the States every year and take our sewing machines and shop during the day and sew at night. And yeah, I have quite a collection of quilt kits still. Now I feel as though I have to reacquaint myself with the sewing machine. But that last, on Facebook and Instagram, the last little hanging that I had posted, one of the last with the spring wool applique blocks, my hope is to get that quilted. Maybe even for sure, but for sure by Wednesday. I have friends that come stitching on Wednesdays, and I'd like to have it ready to do the binding. Anyway, back to Kate from the last homely house. She has a saying that she uses, and I think it is so spot on. And especially the way our world is right now here in Canada and, south of us. It's just chaotic and crazy, and we probably don't realize how chaotic and crazy. It was funny because we're in the middle of, campaigning for an election for a new prime minister, and my husband, who follows the news, and since COVID, I don't bother, which is bad, but I know I have him to relay anything of importance. And he was going on, and I thought, I kind of made the comment like, oh, I hope for the next month. And so he gave me heck for not wanting to be informed. And I do want to be informed. So anyway, politics will not be mentioned on this account. Her quote, and I'd love to get it on a t-shirt, I'd have to ask her for her permission, is get out of your head and into your hands. Because it's scientifically proven that when you work with your hands, and that can be gardening, that can be painting, that can be, from embroidery and knitting and all that kind of stuff. When you're working with your hands, there's something that happens in your brain that and so when I encourage you that if you are stressed about something, just grab something to do, handwork of some sort. And so my very first how-to, here comes a cat. My very first how-to, this is Alice. There you go. Come on, look at the camera. Don't look at me. My very first how-to will be about wool applique. I have a friend who has started this block of the month that I'm doing, and she's never wool appliqued before. So I told her I would find her information, and then I decided to start this YouTube thing. And so, yeah, we're just going to I've already finished the project that she is going to be working on. So I'm starting a different one completely, but same gist, right? It tells you how to prep your pattern pieces, how to get them down on your background, and then we'll go through some stitches. So that'll be my first how-to coming up. But there's lots. I have another friend, my BFF, who wants to learn punch needle. She's got the embroidery. She's got the supplies. She just needs a little encouragement and some how-tos. So I'll be doing that after I get the wool applique one done. And we're going to do some weird stuff in between. We might just chat about something, or I'm not a cook or a preserver or a baker, although I do have a lot of sourdough starter. If you're in the area, let me know. And have dabbled at the bread making. But I'm looking past the camera at a project for slow stitching that I want to start. So we'll have a video on that and maybe a little series. So anyway, I have chatted long enough. If there's any questions, let me know. I'll try to link. I'll put the website in the comments, and also be sure to follow me on Facebook, which is Simply Stitches and ampersand Curiosities, and Instagram is Simply Stitches _Curiosities, all lowercase. We don't need a cat butt in the face. So anyway, have a great day. Thanks for popping in. I'm sorry. I hope I didn't bore you, and we will chat soon. Bye.